Namaste. Today I will going to give the presentation of Sybcom Business Economics of chapter number 4, come under module number 1 only, which is known as your business cycle or trade cycle. Now, what means by trade cycle, or you can say cycle also. First, we are going to be define the concept. What means by trade cycle? Cyclical fluctuations are characterized by alternating waves of expansion and a contraction. They do not have fixed run, but they are cycles in that the phases of contraction and expansion recur frequently and in fairly similar patterns. Business cycles are upward and a downward movement in output, prices, interest rate, employment, profit, and a real profit. There are some other definitions also be there, okay, which was made by well-known economist S.T. Cyclical fluctuations are characterized by alternating waves of expansion and the contraction. They do not have fixed rents. As well as there are certain other economists also said, which was made by John Maynard Keynes, a trade cycle is composed of period of goods trade characterized by the rising prices and a low unemployment percentage, alternating with period of bad trade characterized by falling prices and a high unemployment percentage. Next, we are going to be learn there are a number of features or characteristic of business cycle or trade cycle. The first show point is fluctuation in aggregate economic activity. Trade cycle and the fluctuation in the level of aggregate economic activity rather than fluctuation in a single specific economic variable. It involves changes in many variables such as employment, investment, profit as well as financial market variable leading to change in GDP. The second one, expansion and the contraction, which is classified by rising consumption, production and a real GDP. During the expansion, consumption expenditure rises sharply as businessmen react with raising production, real GDP rises. As a consequence, business investment in plant and machinery also rises sharply. Second one, increase in employment. The demand of labor increases during the expansion. This leads to the higher employment in any country. Next, rising prices. As demand for goods and material rises, the prices start rising, and this may be accompanied by rising wages and prices of services. Hence, prices tend to rise during expansion. And lastly, rising profit demand for credit, where a business profit rise sharply during expansion. Anticipating this, stock prices rises as investors expect a business upturn. Since the demand for credits rises sharply, the interest rate may also rise during expansion. Next, we are going to be learn there are four different phases of business or trade cycle. The first one, which is known as your prosperity. Prosperity we can say as a boom also or as an expansion also. In a prosperity, increase in output, employment, investment, demand, profit, bank loan, prices, standard of living, etc. are the main features of the phases of prosperity. While in a recession, we can explain here, the recession is known as your that after the prosperity, the recession phase is coming, and the recession is a period of contraction or slowing down or the economy activity. This phase begins when the downward process in the economic growth become rapid and the output, employment, prices, etc. register a decline. The growth rate may still remain above the steady growth line. Recession is generally of a short duration only. And the second last one is depression or the contraction. Depression is a period of low economic activity, growth rate goes below the steady growth, there is a considerable reduction of production, employment, income, investment, demand, and prices during these phases. And lastly, recovery. Recovery, we can say the revival also. The various exogenous and endogenous factors are responsible for reviving the economy. When the economy enters the phases of recovery, it registers an upward trend in output, income, employment, etc. But the growth rate may still remain below the steady growth rate. Next slide, we're going to be learn that diagram of phases of business trade cycle. In this diagram, it shows that business cycle, which is known as that is the cyclical fluctuation from upward to downward. In the vertical axis, it shows the level of economic activity, and in the horizontal axis, it shows the number of years. With the help of this number of years, the full employment is going to be achieved when there is a fluctuation between prosperity, that's known as boom, recession, third is depression, or you can say contraction also, and the lastly, which is known as your recovery or revival. That monetary policy. Now what means by monetary policy here? Even though the trade cycle are not purely a monetary phenomena, they are aggravated by monetary factors. The central bank uses various instruments such as bank rate, open market operation, SLR, CRR, selective credit control, etc. to change the volume of money supply. And lastly, the fiscal policy through taxation and the fiscal expenditure help to overcome wide business fluctuation. During deflationary phases, business sector in a fiscal policy may use to increase the aggregate demand to the full employment level by reducing taxes and increasing public expenditure. Similarly, during inflationary situation, taxes have to be raised and expenditures reduced to reduce aggregate demand. Fiscal policy operates as compensatory policy which keeps economy close to a full employment level. Thank you to all of you.